one of my biggest questions on this whole thing is who was in charge of this security and how old are they? And I'm very curious about that because if they were not in a mindset to comprehend and understand 9/11 and the immediate aftermath of 9/11 and how security was run. I mean, we went into fairly strict lockdowns on things, but it did ease up, but it eased up to a level that seemed to be secure. I think, and I think there's many generations now that never even saw that or understand it, and you can't comprehend it if you didn't live it. It's the same way
Right.
our generation doesn't understand Pearl Harbor the way that someone who went through it. But it's one of those things where I think if you missed that part of history, which is now 25 years ago, a quarter of a century ago, you may not quite grasp the gravity of what people who have some hell bent idea on destroying people, what they'll go to. And this didn't seem like it was that much of rocket science to put an extra barrier up so a vehicle could not fit through an open road there. That to me just seems very questionable. And New Orleans clearly has a history of incompetence in terms of their city and how they handle it. Is this just a story of incompetence here? Or at the worst cases, I think there needs to be some looking inside. Is there something here that was somewhat coordinated as to reasons why this vehicle was allowed to get through?
Yeah, well, uh, the first thing is New Orleans, they have since Katrina has never recovered
Hmm.
in terms of their police force.
Yeah.
Like they are understaffed, they're underfunded. They have a really hard time keeping people employed with that police department. I mean, that's facts.
Sure.
Which is ironic because out of any town shy of, again, New York City, I can't think of a place where you need kind of that the protect aspect of protecting and serve of
Hmm.
law enforcement, um, more than New Orleans because of just the massive amount of tourism that goes on there. I mean, with the Superdome and with the French Quarter and they just have so many things. You've got Mardi Gras and jazz. They have. I would hazard to guess. I don't know how many millions of people come in through that
Sure.
town
Yeah.
annually. I
Yeah.
mean, it's Allie and I's favorite place to visit. We love New Orleans.
Yeah.
We're down there all the time, and it gives you pause. It gives you pause. I mean, I don't want to say this to be insensitive, but I mean, we're there so much that you'd never catch us dead on Bourbon Street.
Mhm.
That's for like the first timers or like tourists that are kind of hitting New Orleans for the very first time.
Sure, it's
You
like
gotta
Times
eat,
Square, basically. Where
right.
it's like this is the tourist zone. Yeah,
You got right. You got to hit it. You got to get
yep,
your
yep,
hurricane at Pat O'Brien's. You got to do all the
yep.
things that you've
You
always
do it
heard about New
once. Yeah,
Orleans, right?
yeah,
So like from that aspect of it, like I don't know that it's incompetence as much as it really boils down to they just got too comfortable.
yes,
They had
yes.
gone a very very long time without having any kind of with huge amounts of people coming in for all
Well, yeah.
kinds of things, whether it be sporting events, whether it be music events, whether it be Mardi Gras, whether it be,
And
I mean,
yeah, and that's
there's
exactly where we were at 9/11 as well. We
exactly,
were too comfortable, and I feel like this it should be a wake up call of being too comfortable. Again, going back to those of us who've seen that in the last 25 years, I think we have gotten too comfortable. I mean, it was too heavy, then it was kind of okay, and now it's like, are we even paying attention
right.
anymore?
We've slipped back into complacency a little
Completely.
bit. And,
Yeah.
and it's like we see it everywhere though.
Yeah,
You know
completely.
what I
Yeah.
mean? This is not a distinctly American problem. I
No,
mean, we're
it's
seeing these
generational.
attacks.
This is how this works. Yeah.
Exactly. So like the question I mean, with that 9/11 conversation is interesting because with that, we're talking about essentially hijackers that were able to make their
Hmm.
ways onto planes, with weapons as crude as they were enough to get the job done,
Yeah.
to get those planes under control. Like that is an easier solution to me because you have an ability in airports to be able to say, all right, this is what we're going to do from
Yeah.
now on. Like, I mean, in terms of passenger lists, we've always had that in
Mhm.
terms of knowing who was flying.
Yeah.
But in terms of people being able to walk in willy nilly to an airport, like you said, my kids
Yeah.
know nothing but that.
Yeah.
Like you and
Yep.
I lived a very different life prior to 9/11.
Yep.
There was no security in the airport,
Yeah,
man.
I used
you
to go
know,
hang out there in high school and
right,
watch the planes and like get the Burger King at the thing and just hang out, and
right,
like nobody cared. It was a
right.
totally different world at that point in time.
So right,
Yeah.
so for that, it was kind of an easier solution. Out of that was born TSA, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna everybody that walks through the doors of this airport and it has the intention of boarding a plane, we're gonna check their bags and we're gonna check their person to make
Hmm.
sure they're not bringing anything on board." Easy, because you have people contained in an area. Same kind of with sporting events.
Hmm.
That was one of the things. Same things. You're not going to go into a sporting event that doesn't have metal detectors,
Yeah.
that you're not getting a body scan, that you're walking in and they're doing face recognition these days. All those things are implemented. The question becomes for a situation like parades or just places that are populated on a daily basis. There's never going to be a day
Yeah.
once things get back to normal in New Orleans that there aren't tons of people walking around on Bourbon Street
Yeah.
and in the French Quarter. So what do you do? Do you gate it off now, and you force people to pay an admission to get into the French Quarter in order
I don't
to,
think you need that. I think they just
because
need to
like
put
they're
basic
like,
barriers up they didn't have.
but if there's a will, there's a way.
There
You
is,
know
but
what I'm
but but
saying? You
that
could
would have
put up
stopped
three
it.
concrete
Yeah.
barriers,
Yeah.
and if this dude wanted to get through, he was getting through.
Yeah. But
Or he's not
yeah.
coming in off of Canal Street.
Uh,
You'd have
yeah.
to barrier the entire. That's what I'm
Well, I
saying.
mean,
We'd
but
have
a
to
lot of places
blockade.
do that. Nashville does that. You go to uh, where else am I thinking? Going now, there.
Yeah, but Nashville's still those same shitty metal barriers that like you could just plow through if you're in a F-250.
Yeah,
Like I'm not seeing the concrete. You know what
Beale
I'm saying?
Street
It's like
also another area that also does have it blocked off. I mean, it's just not. We're talking about concrete, or just some really basic things that really would be a simple solution.
they
Just
always do have
yeah,
Bourbon blocked off.
but they
Like
clearly did
I've
not
been
that
there.
night.
I've
Yeah.
been to New Orleans
I know, but
50
but the fact that
times.
somebody thought that night it was okay to just block it with a police car, that's the scary thing. And
I
and that
mean, to me, a police car's probably a little more sturdy than a blockade.
but
You
it's
know what I
one
mean?
and you have more
I don't know.
space. I know.
I hear what you're saying. I just don't know what the fix is, man.
I
I
know.
don't know.
I just think competence is the fix. Competence is going, this is a major event. There is no question. These barriers need to be up by this time. We cannot have a temporary fix that night. This is a major night. And if we have to go get something in here to put up concrete barriers, then go and do that. I mean,
I mean,
it's not rocket science. It's just a
man,
simple.
every night is a major night on
I
Bourbon
know,
Street.
but
I'm
that is
telling
a
you.
major, major attention item. That's why it was done that night.
I like I like I
Then
don't know
have
if
it
it
up all the
was
time.
I don't like I haven't seen like pictures that showed me that there were any more people on Bourbon than there
Well,
are on an
sure,
average day.
but then just have it up. Period. There should never ever any night of the year ever
That's what I'm
be a
saying. Do we
way.
make it gated now?
Exactly.
Like,
Period.
do we
You can
do
get in
we
and you can get out easily, but you have to kind of control a crowd because that's unfortunately where we're at. One more thing on this, and I know we've been talking about this now
Yeah,
for
I think we could talk about this forever.
yeah,
So wait, but before you
yeah.
jump on to the next
No,
thing,
I got one more thing on this too, but you go ahead.
all right, so I want to ask you if we have this situation where we've got to try to figure out preventative measures, right?
Hmm.
That's what you're talking about. You're talking about having preventative measures in place at all times
Yeah,
because, like, we're always going to get complacent. Like, if
sure.
there's no attack for a
Yep.
decade, we're going to be like, oh, yeah,
And then
we're
we
fine.
forget about why we have those measures in place
Right,
because they're
exactly.
not
So,
convenient.
like, I think the bigger question, this might be leading into what you're going to ask. How much of it is really going to boil down to government intrusion into our shit. meaning Patriot Act type
Yeah.
of invasion into our communications with one another, to where everything we're doing and saying, which it already is, it's all on
That's
the
already
grid.
there. That's the thing. Like all those things already exist, whether they,
Because, like, I
yeah.
did you read? I thought I read something that they were aware of this guy ahead of time. Now, I don't know if somebody misspoke. I thought I heard something in one of the pressers right after it, that they were aware that this dude was a threat. No,
My knowledge, to my knowledge, I did not hear that. It's no way to say that that's not out there. Then I just didn't see it. But this is, I mean, the most shocking thing to me on this is, did you see his real estate video where he's talking about? That's one of the crazy things about this to me. You know, you think of the 9/11 hijackers; they came from Saudi Arabia. They were radicalized over there.
this
This
guy's
guy was
born
a
in
realist.
Texas.
He was born in Texas. He was in the army. He served his country for a huge chunk of his life. And then somehow was radicalized to go and do this. I mean, that's the shocking thing. But I think honestly, in the case of this guy, I'm almost thinking more mental break here than true radicalization. As we think of terrorists, I guess as a whole or in general, this guy just does not seem to fit the profile of any of this, other than a severe mental break. But that may just be it. I mean, and that's my other point here, is the lack of expertise in any of this stuff. Yeah, he flew an ISIS flag. Does that mean he's part of ISIS? No, it does not. It means he may sympathize with them, but that was my first question: is this truly an ISIS attack, or is this some nut job that somehow found, semblance or some sort of community with ISIS? And as of now, I think that's maybe probably what we're looking at, probably encouraged wherever he was communicating with people. But this is just such a weird guy. And I'm wondering if the other guy is connected too. And just kind of, the community that we have now where things are unquestioned. You can go find, whenever he's having a mental break, let's go find community and make it a thing. I think that enables this sort of shit in different parts of the country. Which is maybe what we have going on here.
Yeah, no, I think there's no question about it. Because you get like a real Timothy McVeigh like vibe from both of these dudes,
Yeah.
in the sense that they were both military guys, both Americans, domestic terrorism,
Hmm.
and you're trying to figure out why always.
Yeah.
And I happen to think that you hit the nail right on the head. I think without question, both of these guys were suffering from mental illness. I mean, you have to like try to sit for 1 second, and it is so hard. And I'll tell you this, Tony, as a criminal defense attorney, to convince people that mental illness is actually a thing,
Yeah.
because people that have never experienced it in their lives,
Uh-huh.
whether it be personally or whether it be with a loved one or a close friend or what have you, just have a tendency to kind of think it's bullshit,
Yeah.
which is so fucked up.
I know.
It's so
Yeah.
fucked up.
I hear you.
Because like, but like we're going to find out, and it's becoming more and more evident every day that passes. And I hate to tell you, man, this shit ain't helping. And I'm not talking about, and I'm holding up my phone for those of you listening on the pod, the devices, and I'm not saying it's like social media. What I'm saying is I think we're literally being, our minds are being destroyed by like waves of and like radiation from like there's radiation constantly pumping out of these devices. Like
Hmm.
when your phone is getting hot,
Yeah.
it's literally radiation coming off your phone.
Yeah.
Like I just think that the mental illness is going to get worse and worse as we progress, with everything turning into technology as opposed to just kind of like getting back to basics, bare bones, fire, food.
I think
And
we're
like
gonna go
I
back to
just,
that because it's like now the computers can think for us.
well,
Um,
and that's the thing, man. And like that thing is like, my position on that. That
yeah.
is coming. It's here, and it's only going to get scarier
Oh,
in
completely.
terms of what it's capable of doing. And, when it gets put in the wrong hands, it's going to be scary, man. And, but like with these guys, like you just have to wonder, is it PTSD? Now, I haven't done a deep dive into their backgrounds. I don't know if either of them were in combat, either in Afghanistan or anywhere in the Middle East where we've had conflict going. I don't know. I mean, that's an easier way to look and say, all right, well, clearly, these guys are trained to kill, and then they're put in a situation where they actually are going and killing.
Yeah.
Like you like people that just kind of look at it in a way that they're watching war movies and they're like, geez, that
Yeah.
seems super scary, and not really kind of trying to put themselves in the shoes of somebody who is sent over into battle,
The
and the horrors of that. And
uh the one that was in the New Orleans driver, he was deployed to Afghanistan in 2009.
yeah, dude,
Um,
that dude's
but
got
but if
PTSD like a
if it was
mofo.
combat, I don't know though. We don't
It
need.
doesn't like out there, that wasn't like a straight up like Vietnam
No,
WW2
no.
war. That was driving out peacekeeping missions, getting shot at, getting blown up, like all the things
Hmm.
that were going on with Afghanistan. It was a much different circumstance,
Yeah.
and like a lot of those dudes are coming back like jacked up in the head, and
Hmm.
I'm sure I would be too. I'm sure that
Yeah.
you would be too. You cannot be put in that situation where we're ripped from sitting in
Yeah.
front of our computers talking about shit all the time to being thrust into the
Yeah.
front lines of having your life literally flashing, before your eyes on a minute to minute
Yeah.
basis, and or you're in a position where you're just gunning people down in order to preserve life.
Yeah.
And that moving into such a part of your brain where you're desensitized to what you're doing, because I mean, we're all taught to believe in that murder is criminal, that murder is evil, and it's like we're somehow justifying it because there's a fight about oil or religion or whatever the case may be. I mean, like why are you able to take that and compartmentalize it and say, okay, well, murder is really bad, it's criminal, gets you a life sentence in prison and or the death penalty if you commit it in society, but when we're going to pull you out, put you in a uniform, hand you a gun, and send you off to a foreign country, it's good to go.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this strange kind of disconnect there that I think that for our veterans who I love so very much, I really do. I am always in awe of them,
Yeah.
especially people that served in battle and war, who were in the shit, so to speak, and they come back, because that sacrifice is unbelievable. It's unbelievable,
Just
like
sent
the
one
amount of
off
sacrifice.
last night. A nephew of my girlfriend that he's 19 and he's about to be deployed and about to find out where he's going. And just
Oh
came off
my
last night.
god, dude, it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
like I love our country, and it's like I'd never want my kids to join the military because
Sure.
I know what it means. It's like that thing where you've got like you feel like you're potentially sending your kid off
Yeah.
to a death sentence. So it's like you wanna defend our country, and
But
you,
thank
and
God
you
we have those
obviously.
people that are
Oh, that's what I'm
that
saying, dude. It's
have
like
that,
I
that
never
yeah.
see a veteran without thanking
Sure.
them.
Yep.
And if they're
Yep.
willing, I'll shake their hand. Like, and I mean it.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, yeah.
such a huge sacrifice. And it's
1000%. Yeah.
oh my God. But the bigger
Anyway.
thing is they're sacrificing their mental well-being.
Yeah.
So which brings us back to the point, like, I think when they dig in, because these guys had to have been sitting around, Tony,
Hmm.
for days, weeks, months, thinking about doing this shit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're like, they're not sitting around like putting their Oculus on and like, oh, I'm gonna go kill zombies like me last night. They're sitting around in their basement, probably with like a fucking police scanner on,
Mhm.
like just sitting there, like making homemade bombs and just like thinking about like killing people,
Yeah.
like on a massive scale, and you're like, you just have to try to sit there and think about, like, my god, like where has it gone wrong with that person to
Mhm.
where like they've got like no kids, like there's no
Yeah.
family. They're like, where is
Well, and that's where it
where
goes
is
back
this?
to, I think, the lack of the expertise in all this. Like, we're talking, there was fireworks in one of them. Like, no one who's seriously trying to blow something up or has any understanding of reality is going to think going to Uncle Sam's fireworks and loading up on, the 4th of
Right.
July shit is going to blow up a build. I mean,
It's amateur
it's so
hour.
the both of them were amateur hour. Number one, it was amateur because they could get through as easy as they did. Anyone could have done that if they
Right.
wanted to. But then number two, he had all these other, IEDs, quote unquote, sitting around apparently, but none of them went off. He didn't have any real true plan of how he was going to do it or when. It was just complete chaos, even on that part. And that's where it feels like this is so much more of a mentally ill person who's somehow found themselves in that place in our country as being an American citizen. This is a different type of terrorist here because this is not even ideological like Timothy McVeigh, where they sat there and this is how they see, this is their life. This seems like somebody went nuts and something snapped somewhere very quickly and it went to amateur hour terrorist. And it's scary because we're starting to see more of this. How many other amateur hour terrorists are there going to be? And they can do a lot of damage really, really quick with amateur hours still.
Thousands and
Yeah.
there are so many people. So, I say it all the time. Like I was 20 plus years in the criminal justice system, and I'm telling you that that 90% of perpetrators were either suffering from mental illness and or addiction to either alcohol and drugs or both.
Sure.
Like this is not rocket science.
No.
And the problem with that is that the government's solution to this, prosecutors' solutions to this, is to stick people in prison, as opposed to if we had as many treatment facilities as we did prisons, and we were trying to get people better
Yeah.
instead of just throwing them in a cage and letting them rot and letting them fester and then letting them come out 10, 15 years later
So that's a
in a
whole other conversation, which
it's a
I want to
whole
do.
nother thing,
I want to
man.
do a
But
documentary on that actually about the whole the mental health system and the state
But it
mental
all went, but
facilities that all
all
went to hell in the 80s. Yeah.
it all boils back to
Yeah.
that, though.
Yeah.
Like that, it's like this isn't a hard thing to figure
No,
out,
it's
like
not.
what's gone wrong here. And if you're wondering if there's a shit ton of dudes sitting in their basement, like crack, like just like building up to this point where they're
Yeah.
able to go out there and do what they're thinking about doing and probably have been thinking about doing for months or years.
Yeah.
There's a ton of them,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, and like I don't know how you stop it. If
Yeah.
it's the lone wolf guy who's not communicating with
Yeah.
anybody.
It feels like the water is at the boiling point, and that's the
Yeah,
scary part with this.
yeah.
So.
It's we're in dangerous times, man.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.